Hi YouTube, welcome back to Wtf Rc Cars. So, carrying on with the TA-08 Pro, we have Tamiya hop-up part OP-2003. It's also got part number 22003, and it's the TA-08 stabilizer front and rear kit for the TA-08 Pro. So, let's bring in for a close-up look and see how we go about fitting these. So, in the kit we get some of the longer connections, we get the shorter ones. We get two sets of stabilizer bars, red and green. We also get the grub screws, these little ball attachments, and the nice blue anodized parts. And we get 4 little tiny bearings. So, let's crack on. We'll get the body shell off to start with, and we'll start with the front of the RC. So, it is telling us that we need to remove the entire of these top arms, shocks, everything to fit this, but I'm not entirely sure that we do. I know we need to get this lifted up, but looking at it, I'd have thought you can just remove the screws and lift it up and then just pop the links into place on the suspension arms and see how much we have to do just to get it to come off to the point we can slip the anti-roll bar in. I'm not sure if it's just because they think it'll make it easier if you remove the entire of the top, but also looking at it, not entirely sure if we're going to have to remove this entire carbon piece, because I'm not sure how much play we've got in this. See, those two are for the pulley. I think these two screw it down to the actual mount for the motor, so it's possibly going to give us enough sort of leeway. It looks like we're going to be able to slip the actual bar in there. So once we remove those 6 screws, we then need to build up our anti-roll bar kit. So first thing we're going to need to do is get all 4 of these off and the little pivot balls, and then we're going to want to screw these together, and you're going to want to screw 2 for the front and 2 for the rear. The front one's measurement from there to the top of the ball would be 26mm, and the rears we're going to tighten them down to 25mm. So I'll get 4 of them made up and then see what else we need. So once we've got these made up, 26mm for the front, 25mm for the rear, we then want to choose our roll bars, and the shorter ones are for the front. So I'm going for the red, which is the soft, not super soft, on the front. Then we're going to need one of us carriers, or as bearing carrier if you like, on each side, and you're going to need a tiny grub screw in the middle of each one of these. So we just need a grub screw putting in each one. Then you're going to slide on one of the bearings, then on the ends you're going to need one of these pieces with a grub screw in each one, and just don't go crazy tight with these because you will strip the threads in the plastic. So let's see how difficult it's going to be to fit these. So we need to get them through the actual suspension, so in between the shocks but above your drive shafts. So that doesn't seem too bad to do. Then what you're going to have to do is pop these in, and then you're going to slide one to one side, one to the other, and just pop the bearings into the actual carriers. So I'll get them slid in and the little grub screws tightened up. So I'm not sure how well you're going to be able to see these on camera, but basically you just push your bearings into these sides and tighten your grub screws up. So now we should just be able to get our bulkhead back in place and then tighten these screws down. So up to yet I don't really see it necessary to remove all the suspension and everything as it suggests in the instructions. It does seem like it's all going back together properly, and it's really not that difficult to, once you get your hex drive into the grub screws on them collars, you can push the bearings aside really easily, and I'm not seeing any detrimental effect to doing it this way. So we're yet to get the small parts in that hold onto the suspension arms, but other than that it's looking pretty good. I'm not going to tighten them up all the way because we may need to lift this up again for the rear one. I think fitting these little collars last would be the best way of doing it. So for these we're going to want the collar facing forward and the little dot facing the same direction. So I'm thinking if we snap them into position, then make sure there's little dots facing forward and drop them down into the actual suspension arm, and then get it into position. And you can quite easily get down to tighten the grub screw. And then once we've got them into position that way, we can then pop his arms on. Certainly think that is the best approach. Certainly better than taking all your suspension apart. So we just need that popped into place. Then we can easily tighten up his grub screw. Once we got his grub screw tight, just a case of positioning these. And then pop them on, and we can adjust those grub screws if we need to. So we quickly flip round to the rear, and we've now got similar sort of setup again. So should be able to screw all these out. So you can get away with leaving them two in. Next we're going to need one of the longer of the two, and I'm going for the super soft on the rear. So that would be the green one. So we're going to need one of these collars with a grub screw on either side. You can make your job a tiny bit easier by just nipping them up towards the centre. And we're going to want a bearing dropping on either side. Then we're going to want two of these little end stops, And you're going to want a grub screw in each one of these. Just get it started and then you should be able to slide them on easy enough. So I think for this one I'm going to take the same approach. So these with the little dot facing forward, you're going to want one of these on top. And we're going to want one of these for either side. So once we've got them, we're going to want to slide this through, and again it's going to go above your drive shafts and in between your shocks, so it might be a little easier to see on the rear than it were up front. And you're going to make sure it goes outside of the body mounts. Then you're going to want to drop it inside. Once you've got it inside, and get one of your grub screws, and slide it back, and you're going to get your bearing sat inside there. And then you can slide the grub screw back over. So basically, once you've dropped it in there, you want your two little grub screws facing outwards, your bearings pushing either side, and your little grub screws tightening up. And you want to make sure that this anti-roll bar is outside of these, inside your shocks, and above the drive shafts. So once we've got all that together, it should now just be a case of tightening the 4 screws down. I think on the front it's the same sort of setup as well. It's only the 4 outer screws that you have to actually tighten down to hold the bulkheads on. I think the inner ones just hold it down to the top of bulkhead cover. And as you see, as we tighten the bulkhead back down, it holds the sort of top of the bearings. And it's a little bit of a fiddly job to do this, but the instructions tell you to completely strip all the top suspension down, and from what I can tell it's not really necessary as long as you've got the bit of patience to get these grub screws in. It's not too bad to do. So now we just need to fasten these on with the little dot facing the rear of the RC. So you can drop these down. Can get them into place, and then all we need to do is just nip the grub screw up once we've got that done. So you want to just check, make sure you've got your little dot facing the rear of the RC. I believe it's how these are formed, just so they fit on better. But we can clip one in. And really looking at it, I think there's enough room on these to actually clip it on first, and then just slide it onto the end of the anti-roll bar. Yeah, so you can do it both ways. So it's not particularly bad to do either way round, but then we should have our anti-roll bar fitted front and rear. And then you're just going to be left with the 2 anti-roll bars that you're not using. So there we have it, the front and rear stabiliser bars fitted on the TA-08 Pro. I don't think there's anything else I've got in line for this RC at the moment. Don't see any reason to move to aluminium hubs. Not had any brake, and it does drive really nice. I think I've got some low friction ball studs kicking about, so I might pop them in it at some point, but at the minute, there we have it, the TA-08 Pro with the front and rear stabiliser bars fitted. So, thanks a lot for watching Wtf Rc Cars. If you like this kind of content, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the notification bell, chat to friends and family, and catch you guys again in the next one.